Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for Truth show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard, you don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart, yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome back to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. It's a pleasure to have you back with us again tonight. And many of you have been asking, how do I avail myself of all the previous episodes? It's very simple. Go on YouTube, click on A Time for Truth show, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be availed of about 4 years of segments, episodes. We'd love to have you. And tonight we have a very special segment because, you know, sometimes in life you can get really beat on, you can get down, you can get depressed. And when you think about it, what brings you back up? That favorite song, you know, We Are the Champions, or New York, New York with Sinatra, you know, all different genres, all different types of music, but it's beautiful. I don't know if there's something about music. And tonight, we're very lucky. We're going to have something for you and a very special guest. And first, we're going to introduce him to you. And engineer, if you can, let's put his pictures and images up. There's his band, Double Vision. And our guest is Chandler Mogel, a prolific, internationally acclaimed rock artist and studio singer, having performed vocals on hundreds of songs, spanning dozens of albums. Chandler heads up the popular foreigner tribute band Double Vision, having performed at many high society private events. He performed with Twisted Sister's drummer AJ Perot's band Cities, and later under Kibble Records sang on Talon, metallic rock band, and in 2009, his rock band Out Loud toured Greece for Frontier Records, subsequently touring Europe and appearing on national TV in the cover of Metal Hammer magazine twice. In the wake of Out Loud success, Chandler was offered the frontman position in the classic metal band Diamond Head. He became the lead vocalist for the Punky Meadows Band, whose albums debuted at number 7 on the iTunes Rock Chart and number 6 on the Billboard charts. His international recognitions include Best Unsigned Artist in Australia, Reverb Nation Home Album, Page Acclaim, Road Not Taken Album with Iron Bridge Band, Grammy consideration, Best Rock Album 2013-2016. Against the Grain, Best Rock, Best Engineered Album. Lead vocals for the debut solo album of Michael Denner of Merciful Fates, and vocals with Jeff Waters of Annihilator fame on his American Chaos album. His song American Boss gained Best American Roots Performance consideration, and his Double Vision band recently made history as one of the first global tribute bands to sign a record deal for original music. His band has had multiple albums and international acclaim in the US, in Europe, and Japan. And engineer, let's bring him up live and bid a warm welcome to Chandler Mogel. Welcome.
Thank you, brother. Thanks so much for having me.
Well,
Thank you,
you
sir.
know, it's a pleasure to have you, and
Thanks.
you know, to have someone who provides us great music. So, you know, tell us, you know, what, you know, when you were a teenager, because I was reading, and you know, it's amazing all the things you've done. But you first started with the piano, right?
Well, actually, yeah, I don't know how you found this information. I started way before I was a teenager. I started taking piano lessons at the age of about four or five,
Right.
really. And it didn't really take until later on when I found singing much later. I didn't really start singing until I was 22 years old. Very, very late bloomer, you know. Didn't know. I wasn't one of those people who like knew what they wanted to do from the womb, you know. I knew right away that I didn't know right away, rather, what I wanted to do. So I found it later, and you know, better late than never. So, you know.
Absolutely. And you're from Pennsylvania, right?
I am originally from Pennsylvania, Reading, Pennsylvania, and I've been up in the New York area for about 20 years. You know,
Okay.
doing music full time, and it's the place to be.
It's a beautiful city. It's got a lot of energy, a lot of vibe, right?
Yeah, it's the best. It's one of the best places in the world to be. I mean, I think of it as my hub because I can go anywhere from here. I can go to Europe. I can go to LA pretty easily within a few hours, you know. So, and then I can work in New York City all the time, in and around it. So,
It's beautiful. And you know what? It's interesting. As I was, you know, reading about your history, it's interesting because it seems like the first time you sang, kind of like your buddies or something at a basement jam were like putting you up to it or something?
well, that's how the singing really started for me. Like I said, had some experience with piano earlier on, but then the singing didn't come along until 21, 22 years old. And yeah, I was in a band with a friend of mine who's now passed away, unfortunately. But I do give him credit for kind of getting me into music. And he had a Judas Priest tribute band, a cover band rather, at the time. And I would go down there and I would just, you know, scream my head off to these songs, not even knowing what I was doing, you know, losing my voice after 2 songs. And I was like, this is fun, but I gotta figure out how to really do this, you know.
Get it down.
You know, in the right way. So so one thing led to another, and eventually led me up to New York City, where I started taking lessons from Tony Harnell,
Okay.
who is actually a great rock and heavy metal singer, famous all over the world. And I was able to get in with him. And, you know, and then from there on, it kind of, you know, one thing led to the next. I eventually moved up to New York to make my career in singing, so.
Yeah, I was going to ask you is you grew up in Pennsylvania, you come to New York. So what was it like acclimating to your New York, these early experiences as you know, trying to become, you know, making it professionally? Tell us a little bit about the beginning, you know, because a lot of people out there watching this say, geez, I can't do that, or I've tried that. So they gain a lot from what you've gone through.
You could totally do it. I mean, I'm not from here. So I was already working as a singer in the town that I was from, Reading, Pennsylvania. So I was cutting my teeth there. But I knew I needed something bigger. And, you know, it just one thing led to another. I started getting contacts up here. I knew I had to create a network. You know, I knew the first thing was like make a network for myself, because you're as strong as your network, right? It's really true. You know, it's about, they say it's about who you know, but you know, and it's very true. It's the more people you know and can network with, the stronger your whole support system is. So I started creating that right away, and I'm telling all my secrets here. Putting ads out in like Village Voice and all these Craigslist and all these things, just trying to meet people. And and it's funny you bring that up, because I think about it now, and I've met people from those ads that I still work with and know to this day.
Isn't it amazing?
So, yeah.
It's funny how life is. That you do something, you don't even realize it, you meet somebody, and then years later you go, wow, if I hadn't done that.
No, it's true. I mean, it's an interesting thing, how life works sometimes. You know, you don't know how it's going to work, but sometimes you just gotta dive in. You know, so.
It's interesting. It's almost like there's something there for you. It's like a challenge.
Yeah.
You're going through it, sometimes it gets hard, sometimes it gets a little easier, sometimes you go, what am I doing? And,
No, sure.
But
Sure.
but it's amazing, right?
I find that if you really keep your eye on the prize and you really focus on what you want to do, keep your eye on the mountain, so to speak, the universe is gonna clear the path for you, and it's gonna really try to help you get there.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's very true. If you really hone in on it and you really have your head together and focused in on it,
okay,
you can really get there. And that's what happened for me. I speak from personal experience. I didn't just stumble into something.
Right.
I knew what I wanted to do, and I went for it. And I had no safety net. I didn't look back.
No.
I
just
went for it. I was like, oh, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to go to college. No. I just went for it.
Well, that's good though, because in your mind, I've heard a lot of this over the years, is in your mind, if you really are focused and you don't look like, well, maybe I'm going to do this instead.
Right.
Otherwise, I guess you just never really commit.
No. It's true. That's why, I think I've seen a lot of instances where people have a fallback plan and they don't really make it. They don't end up doing it because they're not fully in. You have to be, excuse me, you have to be fully in,
right.
Especially to do it in the aesthetic world, the artist world, the music world. If you're really going to do it right and really make an impression, you have to really go all in.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's true.
Yeah. It's funny. It was the relationships that I have, not business necessarily, but I have them in business. But I was just thinking, just in the relationships I've had, those that have lasted over the years, were when I really said, this is a really nice person. I want to really be their friend.
Right.
And years later, I'm their friend. And other
right.
people who I say, well, maybe this and that. You're right. It's never happened.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, it's true. You just got to go for it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. So now, then you start making it. So now, what did you start thinking? Now you start thinking, geez, I'm making it now. So how did it feel to realize, what? It's starting to happen.
Well, you see, making it is a relative term because it's how much in you're going to be, because you have so many situations where you can make it. Like as a singer, I start working right away, start doing all these things, start getting out there, playing gigs, recording sessions, whatever, and before I knew it, I was doing that prolifically, and but as time went on, every year I was doing more and more, and I was getting more and more opportunities and higher paying gigs and bigger opportunities and things like that. So, it's a gradient scale, so to speak, You start out and you just keep moving up the mountain and you keep doing more, and that's always been the name of the game, more. As funny as that sounds, but as much as I can physically handle in a period of 24 hours, I'll do, I've been working, I've done 3 to 4 gigs a day before, where I'm just going back to back, constantly going to places, it's just like, so, I'm always trying to work as much as possible, but at the same time, as quality as possible.
Right.
I'm not just throwing myself into any situation. I'm trying to utilize what I do for the best possible way it can be conveyed.
Well, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know what? I want to ask you something and also acknowledge, because I know for you to be doing this and for you to have the success, because I know I have this in my life with my wife. Tell us a little bit about your wife, because she must be a very special person.
My wife, yes, she is a very special person, and she owns a school. I told you before. She owns a school in Zimbabwe, and
what's her name, by the way?
Her name is Rose.
Rose, okay.
Chikawore, yes, and she owns a school in Zimbabwe, and she is very prolific with that, and has about 400 kids there. Has just built a new building to that. It's really cool because it's something that is, how do you explain it? It's not my forte, but something like the education system there is very controlled by the state, the government, and this is like a spearhead in the private schooling system or something, like a charter school.
Yes.
Hard for me to. It's not, like I said, it's not my specialty, but even though I'm technically a CEO of the school, I've donated enough money to it. But it's something. It's a very great endeavor, very humanitarian and great endeavor that she does, and I support it fully.
Well, you and I are very lucky to have that stabilizing influence in our lives.
Yeah.
Mine is Maria.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky. And so one thing I know the viewers are going to want to know, because especially in the music field, and so this will be really great for them in general. So what are the challenges and barriers that you've had to face and overcome?
In the music world, persistence, something you have to be persistent. You have to constantly persist. You have to constantly be working hard with a lot of determinism. It's easy to get lazy and put that down because it's music and the art world is something you constantly create. It's not something that just happens and is there for you. As a freelance singer or artist, you're constantly creating situations. And I've found myself in situations where, let's say I didn't have any work or whatever, I had to be like, okay, how can I remedy this? I reach out to so-and-so, reach out to them, talk about this, put this up on social media, you know, blah, blah, blah. I mean, all sorts of things where you just kind of just generating interest, you know, newsletters, all sorts of things you can do. You know, I'll come back and do a seminar on that sometime. But but there's so many ways you can continue to create your job, and it's very important because I don't think it's just exists in the art world. I think it's really from every vantage point, every job.
Makes sense.
In any trade where you have to constantly create the opportunity. You know, there's no real security except the security we make ourselves. You know. And I think that's important, and that's something I always go by and try to be persistent with. You know?
Yeah, I think it's very good advice. And Victor, if you have that video ready. Yeah. Okay, let's put his video on. We have a very special video. Chandler's, composed and sang so much music, but he's also a humanitarian. So we have a little excerpt from a song that he created. And you ready with that, producer? Yeah. Okay, let's put it on, please.
When the days are gone and the nights are done, when you feel it deep inside and there's nowhere left to hide, time has come today.
Wow. Well, I got to tell you, that's like
10 years
I did a
old.
little excerpt, but that's like really, it's very moving.
Yeah, you see, I didn't have the scruff back then. It's 10 years old, so. But thank you, man.
It's
Thank
like
you for that.
it's very moving. It's
Thank
like
you.
really, it's alive, moving, and you know, it's interesting because you wrote that, I think, as a humanitarian endeavor. So I wanted to ask you. So here you are, a singer.
Yeah.
And then what led you to now you look at humanitarian and philanthropic endeavor?
Well, I've been inspired by a lot of that, and I always felt that it's important to give back, and I've always felt that living this life and in this career and everything that I'm in is not just a selfless. It's not just a self thing. It has to involve the greater good for all. You know, like what I do really is an evidence of that because I'm not just up there on the stage singing for myself. I'm singing for the people that are listening as well. I'm trying to communicate to them and have them walk away and take something with it. So I've always, visualized or worked in the direction of the greatest good for everybody involved. And I think that's always been a big part of my art. And not too long after moving up to New York City, I discovered something called Scientology, which is an amazing religion, and I started doing some humanitarian work for them, and basically started flying around to different cities, performing songs at their events and fundraisers, things like that. And I even wrote a song for that particular charity, and I still perform it around at different cities all over the world to this day. So that's been a great opportunity for me. But it's a great charity. It deals with things like it strikes out against psychiatric abuses. It promotes a group called the Volunteer Ministers, which actually were like first responders in the LA fires. Things like
I was going to ask, I heard that in this LA fires, the Volunteer Ministers were really involved, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I wasn't there myself, but from what I understand, they were just like some of the first people to be there. They were there the entire time, working, helping recover lost items, and cleaning up, just anything that was needed. Basically, not just there, but in any other disasters like hurricanes, tsunamis, whatever. They're always there, waiting to help. And because it's always needed, and all sorts of things like that, and human rights, higher education, the charity supports, and these are all, I think, purposes that I align with my viewpoint and everything, and I'm proud to do that and to reach out to the world in any way possible with myself and my music, because I think that's very important.
That's so beautiful, because I'm a surgeon and I give talks on drugs, on the harmful effects of drugs, and I do DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency training.
Right. Oh, wow.
And one of the horrific things is a lot of people don't realize is that 76 million Americans are on psychotropic drugs. And I said, my God, it's like 76 million people unhappy, anxious, stressed out. And which is why really I want to have you on the show, because to me, music is like the exact solution that these people need. Like to me, music has always lifted me up when I was down.
Right.
And when I was going to ask you, as a musician and your goals, do you think of that at times? Do you think of that all the time, or?
I do. I mean, that's definitely in line with my goals as a musician. I mean, a lot of the time, as a working musician, it's easy to get caught up in the money and hustle, and do gigs and work and bank money and things like that. So that's always doing more, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it really is about getting a good positive message out to people that can somehow, in some way, and you may never know it, but somehow, some way, change their lives. And somebody said to me once that they it was one of the most beautiful things I ever heard. And something like, if my song reaches one person in the crowd,
right?
I don't remember who it was actually, but I remember the statement. If my song reaches one person in the crowd and it changes their life, and for instance, they got a message later, and you kept me from slitting my wrists or something like that. Your song, hearing it that night, just the feeling or something. I mean, then your work is done. It's just the most tremendous effects can be created by the right intention and beautiful message within aesthetics, to say the least. So that's really the reason that I got involved in it, to be honest.
It is so important, because sometimes we forget. And I've had people, because I run a drug education program, I've had people call me and tell me, my friend wanted to come. He really loves what this group is doing, but unfortunately he can't come. He's really sad. He wants to know he's lost his son.
Right.
But what the group is doing is really important. So what you're saying is so true, because for those of you out there watching, to take example of Chandler here, within any vocation you have really, is to reach out, help people. The Surgeon General of the country came out with this advisory recently that the country is suffering from an epidemic of loneliness and isolation. And it was amazing what he said. He says that scientific studies showed that if we interact more, we're healthier physically. Isn't that amazing?
I couldn't think that's more true, because I don't know what I'd do if I didn't do that. To me, that's my medicine, because I'm always on the front lines as an artist, as a singer. I'm always like doing PR, or what if you want to call it customer service, because I'm always talking to people that fans or people at venues or business things. I'm always talking with people. And to me, I mean, if you're going through something, it pulls you right out of your head. It really does, because, you know, you're just getting down to the nitty gritty or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I never wanted like a desk job or something. I could never do that, where you're sitting there 8 hours and not dealing with anybody. It's just, I can't do it. I can't do it.
No, I could, you know what? If I went back to medieval times,
Yeah.
I would make you a knight. But you would have your, instead of a sword, you'd have your guitar over here, you know?
My
your
what?
horse,
Oh,
your guitar.
Well, I don't play guitar, so.
Yeah, your guitar, you know, say your
But
shield.
yeah, I know what you mean.
You know, with the guitar over here,
Yeah.
with the horse,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And yeah, absolutely. I can see that with you. You're such a humanitarian. And, you know, so you've gone all over the world. I mean, you went from Pennsylvania to traveling the globe, and you travel across the globe. So what message would you like to leave the viewers from, you know, you've done so much. What kind of advice do you want to give them, just in general?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I mean, I would say follow your heart. You know, life is short, this lifetime anyway. do what you want to do in life. Don't accept any substitutes. Don't have a fallback plan. Just go for it. It's never too late. You can follow your dreams. I'm living proof. I didn't start singing until I was 22 years old. You know, most people say, "Oh, I started singing since I was 10 years old," and whatever. I started singing since I was 22, and only professionally for about between 15 and 20 years. So it's, you know, it's not a long time really, but I've tried to make up the time and do as much as I could possibly do in that time frame. And I would just say, go for it. Whatever you feel is holding you back, find a way, you know, to push it to the side and just focus, keep your eye on the mountain. As cliche as that might sound, but it's true. It's true, because there's that one thing that's harrowing in you that you really want to do. You got to go for it, you know, because someday you might feel, or it could be too late, and you don't want it to be too late. So do it. Now is the best time, and yeah.
Great advice. You know, I want to ask you something. We're getting near the end of the show, but I wanted to ask you, how did you find, as a recording artist, you know, musician, how did Scientology help you?
Wow. Scientology helped me mainly as an artist. I mean, I basically got into it because I was an artist and I was looking to increase those channels and put myself out there. And the main way that it helped me was I did a course called, they have a course at a Church of Scientology that anybody can do. Anybody can go in and sign up for right there. And it's called the Success Through Communication course. And basically what it does is it teaches you what communication is and how to communicate. And as soon as I did that course, I was a believer. I was just like, wow, because I realized what I was doing as a singer, and that was communicating to people. Because, I see it all the time. So many people have a wall there and they're not even reaching the audience. And the most important thing to do when you're up there on that stage is to reach the audience, because they want something to remember you by. They want a special experience. And communication is so key, not just in music, but in life, in any trade, in any situation you're in. So, but that's the biggest, I would say that was probably the biggest thing for me, and what really clicked in for me about that. And I've been a Scientologist ever since, and I love it.
Yeah, well, you know, it makes total sense, because a lot of times in my office, I get people come in, and all I do when I come into the operatory and I see them, I don't start telling them what to do. I just say, hey, welcome to the office.
Yeah.
And I said, how can I help you? Many times they have to wake up a little bit, like they weren't really there, and they look at me like, and they go, oh, okay, you want, oh yeah, and then and it's very interesting, but it's so true what you said, how they wake up when you start really listening to them, and it's so important.
You look them in the eyes, and and you give them something they won't forget, and you tear down that, whatever they call it, that fourth wall or something. You break down the barrier,
Right.
You go out there on stage, but it's not just that. It's any situation in life. When you meet somebody for, I don't know, a sales meeting or something, you're doing just as a trade or something.
Sure.
You got to break down that barrier. You got to communicate. And that person's only gonna, like just saying, the person's only gonna buy what you are selling, let's say, if you really are genuine and real with them. They're not gonna buy it if you just wrote with them and just say, okay, you have to buy this or whatever. You have to really reach them And that's an important point, and it really applies in music and in art and in singing especially. You have to realize that you have an audience there. You have to realize there's a line there, a line of communication going from you to them, and you have to get on that line and write it right to them. It sounds wild, but it's true. It's true.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
You know what? Unfortunately, the time has flown by, but I really want to thank you for being on the show.
It's my pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh.
Appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. We'll have to have you back again.
Anytime.
Yeah, and then we'll have to have your wife on also.
She'd love that.
And for those of you watching, let's take Chandler's advice. It's never too late. Let's communicate. Let's stick with our goals. And until the next time, have a great night. And we'll see you on the next episode of A Time for Truth show. Be well.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet